right, but how is this going to make money? And one of the guys, James, who was very experienced, went, improv doesn't make money.
It's comedy, but if you don't laugh, then it's a drama.
Yeah. And I was like, what's happened? They were like, the room is full and all these people are here for us. You know, I'm like, I don't want to be the robot, but I sort of know I am. Because it does, I mean, I honestly, I found I was less nervous for auditions because I just felt like, it doesn't matter what they throw at me, I can do it. It gives you like an absolute rock solid sense of confidence in your own ability to be free.
Hi, and welcome to the Make It Work podcast. I'm your host, Kluane Saunders. So often performers are encouraged to make their own work. But in this podcast, we want to give you some of the tools to get out there and do that yourself. So we're talking to practitioners who are doing it right now. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our podcast so we can keep bringing you these great little chats. In the meantime, join us, learn with us, and let's make it work. My guests today are two members of Crime Scene Improvisation, a rip-roaring crime comedy entirely made up on the spot to solve a surreal murder and catch a murderer chosen by you, the audience. The show recently won Best Improv Show at Leicester Comedy Festival. Kayleigh Cassidy studied creative writing at Birkbeck and works as a primary school teacher in London. She trained in improv comedy at I.O. Chicago and is currently studying the Herald at the Ep8 and teaches improv workshops internationally. Sarah Kempton is an actor and voiceover artist. She's been improvising for 10 years now, having trained at places like UCB in New York and FA in London. Anyway, so thanks for coming today. Tell me a little bit about the group and the show.
The group is made up of sort of 8 of us who do most of the shows. Then we've got also a really lovely sort of group of about 3 or 4 people as well who hop in and out, who are improvisers in loads of other groups as well. And so we're very lucky to have those too. And then the show is an improvised murder mystery.
So it's narrative, following like pretty much the same characters through and very much audience input led.
Yeah.
So amazing. The audience get really excited. Some of them come with their own prepared things to shout out because they're like hardcore fans. And we love that. We love that enthusiasm. And there is a moment in the show when all the suspects have a lineup and the audience have to ask questions. And it is interesting because I've spoken to some of my friends who've come and watched the show and they get really nervous. They're like, I don't want my question to be too bad and stuff like that. And it's so interesting because you think about from all angles, people are feeling that nerve, that like nerves, feeling anxious about like how they're coming across, and even as an audience member. But really, like anything the audience says is great unless it's offensive.
Yes, but mostly it is great.
It isn't that offensive.
But we do, because we do. I mean, I know a lot of improv shows will take a word at the beginning or one suggestion. That's it. That's everyone then can just sit back and watch it. Whereas we actually come back to the audience quite a lot during the show, which means they've got a lot of control over it, which we love because it becomes, particularly now you're kind of making a space for live theatre. Like our show has to be live because we are checking in with the audience all the time. But we found when we first started that the lineup section where the audience ask the characters questions comes kind of in the last third of the show really, and sometimes they'd sort of started to relax again and sort of sit back in their seats, and so we had to kind of put extra bits in place to be like, keep you're coming back to you, don't you worry, little extra cheer out moments or just kind of check-ins. We always try and have the lights on the audience so they don't get into that kind of fourth wall situation where they feel they can get involved. And then when they really do, it's great. I mean, we did a show in Brighton a couple of weeks ago where somebody was just so involved, and that is always
it was a James Blunt. Like they were
the James Blunt one. That was very funny.
They were obsessed with James Blunt.
Yeah.
And so the suggestion was, was it like
it was like a singer-songwriter was the occupation.
Singer-songwriter, but this audience member just really had this thing of James Blunt, and so it was a really fun, shiny thing that we could pepper through. And then afterwards we were outside, I don't know if I'm going to say it right, Caravanserai.
Caravanserai.
And
it was close.
And the guy came up to us and like, it was me, it was me. I love James Blunt. And we were like, aww.
We were like, it sort of seemed like you hated him during the show.
Yeah. Or we hated him. Yeah. We were ripping it.
Yeah. So in terms of the characters, you mentioned a bit there. Have you decided on your characters before the show?
Never.
Or is that from suggestions?
Yes.
Yeah.
It would be based on, so for example, like at the top of a show, we would ask for the name of a person, anonymous, like made up person who had been murdered, a murder weapon, and what their job was, that person. So it is really fun. We always ask for a random weapon which isn't related to the world, and then we're just plucking characters. Like, for example, if the murder weapon was like a surfboard, you might choose to be an Australian character. I don't know. It's that like what's big to pull from the pool of where your inspiration might take you, of what character you choose, or like what emotion you're going to come out and lead with.
Yeah.
And also trying to match like what's happened so far. So because we play the same character throughout the show, it might be that I've not been on yet and I'm in the third scene because there's 5 people playing in each show. And so Kayleigh might have done a certain character and someone else might have done somebody else. And then I'm like, oh, what does it need now? Oh, it needs someone who's super grounded. Okay, I'm going to go in and be someone super grounded now. Or, oh, there's not anyone who's kind of very low status. I'm going to go in and be that. So we haven't decided any of that. That is very much like listening to each other and going, what is this show going to need?
And on that, like even coming out and being like, no one's really suspicious yet. Yeah. I'm going to come out and be really suspicious. Yeah. Like, or really, really just like evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. And am I right that you don't know who's committed the murder?
Yeah. So no, we definitely don't.
We do not know.
It's always a surprise.
Yeah.
And again, thinking of our conversations with the audience afterwards, some things I really like is in Edinburgh, people constantly go, I got it right. I picked you. If it was me that was the murderer at that time. And I'd be like, there was no right answer. It's whoever the audience decides.
Yeah, exactly. But, so they vote. You put a hat over each character and then they vote by sort of shouting out.
By shouting out, pointing and shouting murderer. So that we have a detective. So the detective character is the only person that's pre-decided. Okay. And we all do that on like a rotation. So we'll be like, oh, I haven't done that for a bit. That's probably my turn. Okay. So that character is a little bit on the outside. Yeah. Effectively, like from a format point of view, they're timekeeping. Yeah. They're making sure the format points happen at the right time. So the rest of us can literally just play. Yeah. And so they will make sure that the audience are kind of voting for, well, not choosing, obviously. They'll just be like, I'm going to point and shout. I'm going to point to the person, you point and shout murderer if you think they did it. Yeah. And then it's just, it's quite hard as the detective. I don't know if you find this. It's quite hard to remember, like, hang on, that person's shout was louder than that one. Yeah. Sometimes you'll be like, I think it's between you and you. Hang on, let's go again. And then you think, I can't work out who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to.
And then that person has to come up with in that moment why they did it.
A confession,
and how they did it.
Which is probably like the most amazing part of the show, like watching somebody on the spot work out how they did it when they didn't even know they did it. Like, because often it will be the person who wasn't really that guilty. The audience just took a disliking to them, and they've suddenly decided in the last couple of minutes, it was them. And then they've got to go. And also, it can be really hard to remember the evidence. Because you've had a whole show, and the evidence comes at the start, and so the detective's really there to like sort of, and what about that bit of chewing gum that was placed on the fan after the murder.
Chewing gum, the most important piece of the puzzle.
Yes. And the detective is, I suppose we should talk a little bit about the detective, because it is like sort of a sidekick with the audience. So you've got like the detective. My detective used to always be Detective Magpie, but Detective Magpie is no longer. But you've kept your detective going.
Yeah, because I decided almost day one that I thought it was really funny to be called Detective Viv. And no one else ever.
You didn't laugh. Oh, you laughed.
Exactly.
No,
because no one ever finds it funny, which then made it even funnier to me. So I've now doubled down on it. So everyone else changes their detective name based on like the plot or what's going on, whereas I'm like, it's Detective Viv. That's Viv. It. For 9 years, she's been Detective Viv. Not one laugh ever. And I'm just like, I'm sticking to this. I find it funny.
Apart from one show, and I do remember this show, the audience were called Ball, and you were called Detective Chain.
Yeah,
and together you were Ball and Chain.
Yeah. And then, but I think I then had a bad show. And so from then on, I was like, it has to always be Viv.
I love that.
She has to stay with me.
I love that. I like that for you. It's funny because nobody laughs.
Nobody laughs.
Yeah,
so great. I find it even funny. Every time I say it, a small smile in my head just goes like.
Yeah.
That's like when you see stand-up comedians and they're like, that joke never gets a laugh, but I love it.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms, I think a lot of people are very familiar with short form improv and games because they've seen things like Whose Line Is It Anyway? But what you're doing is long form. And just in case people aren't familiar with that, could you tell us a little bit about long form improv?
Well, effectively, we're doing a play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're following a narrative story through, sort of, I think is the best way to explain it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you've kind of explained it, I suppose, by saying that it's a show and you're the characters throughout. And there's a arc to it, isn't there?
When, like, for example, because I work in a school as a primary school teacher. So when I tell people what I do, they're like, what is that? And I'm well, if it's funny, well, it's comedy, but if you don't laugh, then it's a drama. Yeah. Because like it could just be like, I mean, we do improv is, I think, funny because you've got that common agreement, like this is all coming out of nowhere. So I do think I love improv for that. It is really joyous and funny. But yeah, I think it has got that like dramatic quality to it too. So we do, when we're rehearsing, we rehearse boring scenes because really it is really important to like have those scenes that could be long. Like they're not going to just be like stop at the joke, or we're not playing for the laughs. I think we used to do that and we found the richness of the scenes really lacked. So something that propels us through like in a more like grounded, like theatrical way is having those like sort of scenes born out of like, oh, like someone took my tea out of that like pot, like what? And then suddenly you've got like the stakes of emotion being played in like really like real life grounded ways, because murder's pretty balmy. It's pretty out there for like thinking of like
we're always going down a route of like a cartoony murder. So it's you know, I think my favorite shows that we do are always the ones where we do have like some shiny gamey bits going throughout it, peppered throughout, so it's lots of laughs during the scenes, and then you have every so often a scene which is really like truthful and grounded and two characters just having a lovely journey together. And that's something that you can do in a long form show that you don't want if you're doing short form scenes or short form night. You know, you want every show to be a laugh, every scene to be a laugh. You've got the time. Our show's an hour. We've got the time to have a scene which is just a really lovely, touching scene, and actually it makes everything else lift around it. And those are always my favourite ones, where we find those moments where we can have a moment of like real connection with the characters. And it's really nice.
There's nothing like when the audience go, "Aw," together, like because they do, like, and you like if. Like whoever's the detective will go, hey, they're a murder suspect. Come on now.
Yeah. So you mentioned there that you rehearse. How do you rehearse a show that is made up? I knew it. Big reveal.
It's the play that we perform every time.
We do a lot of like skill-based stuff, but I think, you know, do lots of technique and that kind of thing. So much of improv, and our show in particular, is like working together as a team and learning how each other think and having a real strong bond, which I think is something that we do have as a group. We all hang out together outside of the show as well, and we do have a strong bond.
I mean, I've lived with pretty much everyone in CSI, so they're like my family. I actually have to say, like, I moved over to London from when I lived in Barcelona, and that's how I found improv, was in Barcelona. I came to London and I missed improv and I wanted to get into it, and I auditioned for CSI pretty much like in my first 4 months in London, and then I joined CSI. So really my whole time in London has been the string going through the beads tainted. It has been CSI. No, I was going for a more positive, heartfelt, grounded reflection of my time in London being really very much CSI. But yeah, we are a group of friends, and when we're rehearsing, we are actually like looking at the format of our show quite closely. Like even on Thursday, we had a rehearsal and we decided to try something new in the show at the end, and I think it's a positive move because we're really like in tune with like, I'm not sure if that's actually giving us what we want from the show. So we've decided the very last scene we're going to look at like maybe changing it and see how that goes. And rehearsals are really important for us to get together and just workshop like how things are feeling in the show.
So you do structure it like to an extent, there are things like you were talking about narrative beats, I think before, or
so we've got some format points that we know are going to happen. So the scenes are always completely free, and we never know what's going to happen.
Of course,
characters, we never know what's going to happen, but we always know at the beginning there will be a scene with the detective and the crime scene investigators. And they will give 3 pieces of evidence. We will then meet the person that found the body, and they will talk about the world that the characters live in, and there will be a lineup towards the end. And then, because it is difficult in a narrative improv to make sure you've got a real building towards the end of the show, because you're making it up and you've got to be very mindful of that. We have got a final scene, which, even though the content is loose, that is quite heavily formatted. And the purpose of that is we just learned over the years, like, we need to structure something to make sure it ends on a doop. So we do that.
I love that. I've never heard it called a
But we wanted to like practice, play around with it. We always try and dig into the format and go, is this working? Why is it there? What was the purpose of it originally? Are we still doing that? And we were just doing that on Thursday, weren't we? And like, what is the purpose of this bit? We need to doop at the end. So we were like, is it doing it? What else could do it?
I want to know. So with the dupe,
this is the technical term now, guys.
But to me, there's definitely like a throwing a basket. We're
it's
going
like a
into
slam
the
dunk.
No, I picture it. I think it's great. For those of you listening, we're doing a little.
Sorry, a little like. So I'm doing a little like cat paw going over a.
Like cliff.
A little like a cat paw going over a cliff.
Yeah, great. Well, we're all very clear on what's happening there. That's great. Yeah. No. Okay. So you do rehearse the show, but it is more on the structuring side of things.
Yeah, and also we'll be like, right, what happened in the last show? That went a bit off the, that went a bit, maybe we weren't very grounded in that show. Like, it was very funny, but we didn't do much grounding. Let's do a rehearsal based on let's just do grounding work today.
And do you have a coach that does that?
We actually don't. We did at one point. We worked with Justin Brett from Showstopper, and he was absolutely invaluable. Like, he was incredible, and he absolutely helped us to push the show on leaps and bounds.
Yeah, and he was an outside eye, and that is invaluable.
We still do stuff in workshops now that he taught us, and it was really, really useful. I think I probably would say to anybody starting an improv group, I think it is useful to have a coach from the get-go. Yeah. We didn't do that. We coached each other, which has pluses and minuses. Yeah. But I think over the years, it's just ended up being how it's worked. And what's really nice is that we all do other shows, or we all do other workshops, and people will go, can I run one today on this? So it's very collaborative, which is really nice, actually. But I do think having that couple of years working with Justin was vital. And I think in the future, if we ever felt like, let's have a coach again, we absolutely would. We're not anti it. It just seems to be how we've worked.
And also you have to think about money as well. Like for different times, you do need to because it's a business, like look at where the money's going, and like you do need like publicity sometimes more. So we prioritized the coaching then, because it was something we hadn't had and we wanted, but now we're trying to prioritize. Well, we got a new photo shoot recently, didn't we? And that did
looks great. I was looking at it. Yeah, I was thinking these really sell the show in terms of.
I don't know if you saw the last photos, but they only picked photos where it looked like I had no teeth. So I'm very happy with the new ones.
Only one.
Apart from there's a donut in my mouth, so it still looks like I've got no teeth. People are like, has she got any teeth?
That's the mystery.
Actually, yeah, we had quite a few people write in and be like, I'm sorry, does this woman have any teeth? Yeah.
Keep your hand over your mouth.
Come and watch the show and find out, guys. All right?
Does she have teeth? Yeah. Okay. So you said something there which I wanted to pick up on, which is you put money towards publicity. So I guess how do you sell an improv show where we don't know what the content is really? I mean, I suppose we do in terms of the format, but how did you start promoting the show?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one because we do sort of run it as a business, and we have done that from the beginning. And I remember, I mean, early on, I think like the first month we started, and a lot of us had come to it from different backgrounds. So a lot of us weren't as experienced in improv, which weirdly kind of helped in a way. And even though obviously now we're all very experienced, at the beginning we weren't. And so we were approaching it from different look. And I remember Nicholas saying after like a month, right, but how is this going to make money? And one of the guys, James, who was very experienced, went, improv doesn't make money. But I think that the approach of like this combo of people meant that we always looked at it as like a theatre show. So we have always looked at it as like, what's the branding? So we very clearly from the beginning were like, we're going to wear blue and black. The blue we wear is very specific. Like we check in on each other. Is this blue appropriate? Yes, you can wear that color. Like we actually do run it quite strictly to be like, to make sure the look is right. You know, if you turn up in white trainers to do a show, we'll be like, can you make sure you're wearing black shoes for the next one? You know, it's kind of, so we do that. And the photos, we're very much like, we don't want them to be too wacky. Like it's got to have that hint of, some people need to look very serious in the photos and other people can have a bit of a look on their, you know, a bit of a crazy look on their face. And it can be, but it has to be that very gentle balance, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I want to talk a little bit about our first experience in Edinburgh, where we were very surprised at how popular we were, because we had done. This was my first couple of months in CSI. We'd done our Edinburgh premiere in the Bill Murray, and I think 3 people came, and one of those people was somebody who was going to be in the show. So we had 2 audience members, and one of them was the sister of the person who was going to be in the show. So we had one unknown audience member, and we were like, okay, fine, like go to Edinburgh. We're not going to make any money. We're just going to have fun. We're going to do our show and see what happens. Like that was what we're going to do.
It was our first year in Edinburgh.
It was our first year,
Which was what year?
What year was that?
2016.
2016.
Okay.
So we started at, oh, my dates are terrible. I know we've literally just hit our 9-year anniversary. But
great.
so the first couple of years, anyway, we'd done Brighton the year before and we'd sold out. So this was quite pivotal. We'd sold out Brighton for the previous year. So when we took on Kayleigh and Alex, we were like, we're a big sellout show. Come on, welcome to our big sellout show. We're going to do Edinburgh. And it's going to be hard work, but come and be on board. And then they turned up and did these shows in London where we sold like to 3 people. And we were like, uh-oh.
But we were cool. We were there for it, you know? It was about being part of a team, a tribe, doing improv. And so we got to Edinburgh and we were flying like mad. Yeah. Like we were out there hustling. I had my ukulele. It's embarrassing. If I saw any clips of me and Alex, we went out flying together. Yeah. We were just like relentless. We were up to the police officers. We were just blah, 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 blah. And then we got to the venue. I was outside flying and I saw a big queue. And then like, I was like, so what show are you here for? They were like CSI. And we were like, oh. And I ran down and I told everyone, I was like, I can stop flying now. I think like this queue. And then we were like, we also had to manage the queue. So we had people sitting in there.
Cabaret Voltaire in Edinburgh, if anybody knows the venue.
And it was free, wasn't it? Free Fringe.
It was free Fringe. And so we had no indication at all of how many people were going to come. And we'd had all these meetings beforehand. Yeah. We agreed like whoever's detecting that show is flying to the last second. And that was me on the first day. I was detecting. So I was outside the venue like flyer. And then it got to like 10-2 and I was like, right, I'll go down now. So I went down, like literally could not get into the building, couldn't get in. So I was trying to shuffle through all these people. I went downstairs and these guys were all there. I mean, white face, just shock. And I was like, what's happened? They were like, the room is full and all these people are here for us. I'm like,
turn them away.
What? And it was a capacity of 70, that room. Yeah. So we were like, look, if we get 20, 25 a day, it's going to feel full. We're going to be fine. And that was it. The whole thing was like that, wasn't it? And I honestly don't know why. I could say that I think we've got a good hook.
Yeah.
And I do think our pictures have been good from day one, actually. I mean, that was a couple of photo shoots.
Yeah.
But we don't use those anymore, obviously. But I think from day one, we've always had a clear image.
Brand.
But it was, we literally spent the whole run just in shock, didn't we?
And it was quite difficult just to talk about like some of the like barriers to that. Like we were managing a queue of angry people before we went on stage to perform. Yeah. And it was hard. We had to kind of like, we got together and we'd be like, this is maybe where we started saying I've got your back before shows.
Yes.
Because it was like, oh man, like that was really hard. Like that woman just shouted at me. She wants to come. Like the end of the day, really she wants to see the show. They're annoyed that they waited, but we did it. We also were so inexperienced with all of that. But we started giving out stickers to people then, didn't we? Like our CSI stickers. We were like, let's just give them to people and then turn everyone else away and say, we're really sorry, come back tomorrow.
Because so what we were having to do is we would get to the venue an hour before our show, because that's when people were turning up. And then we would have counted out 70 stickers before the show and we would talk to people. I think we were handing out sweets for some shows as well, because we were like, we want the audience to be happy. They've been standing in a queue for an hour.
And it's a cave, you know, Edinburgh, as you know, it's all caves, dripping caves.
And so we would like keep them happy doing that. And then we'd have one person at the top with a board, and they would be like, this is the cutoff. They have a whiteboard. I remember James used to stand at the top because he was like, I don't mind, people can shout at me, I don't care. We were like, great, that's your job now then. Because a lot of us were like, I don't want to be shouted at.
No.
So we'd put him at the top with the board, and we'd count out 70, and then we'd literally stand at the end. And when people would arrive, we'd be like, sorry guys, full.
Yeah.
And then our idea was like, then it's just like queue management, and then they're not annoyed because they've not got to the door. And
That's smart.
But then we have to go and do a show.
Yeah.
So it was a weird year because we were kind of buzzing with the amazing shock of how well it had gone.
And also people snuck in. It was really funny.
People were like taking stickers off posters and like handing them to friends to sneak in.
It was so funny. There was an underworld. And I was there for it. I was like, why not? Why not? It was so funny. Yeah. Like people would be like, oh, I'm just going to cut down it when the show started because no one can
sneak in,
send me away and like go down.
That's amazing. So you had like incredible. A real fan base. So I haven't actually asked the question of what was the initial coming together as a group? I know you joined a little bit later.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
But in terms of when you first started the group.
So basically, two of the members, Lee and Rachel, met at a workshop and just went for a drink after and said, oh, should we start a group? Yeah, go on then. Let's do an improvised murder mystery.
Great.
And then Rachel found me, Nicola and James at other workshops and said, look, we're starting this group. Do you fancy coming in?
Nice.
And we were all like, yeah, great. So none of us actually knew each other at all. So the five of us, sort of, we'd all come, as I said, we'd come from different backgrounds. So we'd all done improv, but not, I mean, I'd been acting at that point for, I think, 5 or 6 years professionally, but I'd only been doing improv at the time, Hoopla ran 2 courses and I'd done them both.
Yep.
And so that was it. I'd done 2 courses at Hoopla. That was all the training that was currently available. And so that, you know, we'd all come from that kind of place. So we then spent 5 months working the format in a rehearsal room without performing it and just like honing it and let's try this and what if we do that and like, so then we got to the point where we're like, okay, let's do a show. So we did a show and it was obviously terrible. And then we're like, okay, let's rework this again. And then we realised like 5 people isn't going to be enough. We need to have a minimum of 6, well, a minimum of 5 for the show. And then obviously if people aren't available and stuff. So then we got in Steve and Danielle. So we'd only done 1 show by the time those 2 joined. And I do think that like genuinely every single person that has joined the group has contributed to it. And we've always been, as I say, it's always been really collaborative. Yeah. And I think even though some things are kind of set for a reason, we've always been able to like dig in as a group and go, does that still need to be there? Let's always question that. Is that there just because we put it in 9 years ago, or is that there because it needs to be there? And everybody who's joined has brought something to the show, which has been so important. And to keep doing that. And even on Thursday, it was really lovely that like Kelsey and Izzy are our newest members, and they were really contributing to the discussion about this potential change of the new scene. And it's really exciting to have that because people are in the group because they're good, and everybody always wants to hear everyone's points of view on it, which is really important.
So you sort of said there was sort of 2 courses going at the time.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about, both of you, about the change, I think maybe in the last 9 years in the improv scene in the UK? Because it feels like it's booming.
Yeah, it's actually looking a little bit like America, isn't it? With especially in London, like probably if you go to Bristol as well, like cities. But I'm from Torquay. There's not really an improv scene there. So, but like, I'm coming Torquay. I think that like I trained at IO in Barcelona, and then I went and did IO Chicago for 6 weeks, and it was every single night. It's basically a cult.
And we love it.
It's a good one. But it's just there's always something to do. There's always something going on. You've got so many people enthusiastic, passionate about it. And I think that is happening in London now. There's so many courses. You've got the FA, you've got Hoopla, there's another one, isn't there?
I think those are certainly the main ones. And the nursery do stuff, but I think they do more shorter courses. I think. But it's definitely when I started 10 years ago. So because I'd done my 2 courses before we started. Yeah. And when I started, it took me quite a while to Google. I was Googling. I don't actually know why I started. I sort of wanted a hobby from acting and ended up doing something that's completely taken over. And Googling like improv in London, and Hoopla and Monkey Toast were the ones that were there. And I don't know why, for whatever reason, I went for Hoopla. But Monkey Toast no longer exists. And FA didn't exist then. I've now done all the courses at FA and I do quite a lot of stuff with them now. But that didn't exist till I started. But now what's really nice is that there are so many more people doing it and from so many different backgrounds. And it's really exciting to see, because I think I was seeing the same people all the time when I started here. It was just very small, very niche. No one had really heard of it. Whereas now it's lovely to see, like, you can go to watch shows and see different people in the audience every night.
Yeah. And Edinburgh Fringe is full of improv. Yeah. Like, and there's just so many great shows, like, that are, I think, like, capitalizing on popular programs. Like, I feel like it's at that point now where it's like, is there an improv show that hasn't been done yet? And I was having that conversation with a couple of people the other day about, like, possibly doing a new show, and I was like, Elena Ferrante novels, no one's done that yet. And they were all like, who's that? And I was like, that's why no one's done it. Damn it.
Now you've said it, that's it. It's gonna go.
Coming. Talkie, Elena Ferrante novels.
We're coming for your talkie.
But we have started also to see long form shows come into, like, Ostentatious just recently did a run in the West End.
Yeah,
so
Showstopper having Olivier.
That's it.
You know, this sort of thing is like, it's really exciting to see. Like, these big shows are really taking off, and that's something that you just think, how is this happening? It's great.
I absolutely love it, because when I go and see Showstoppers, and you know they're making it up, and you know it's absolutely brilliant, their voices are outstanding, they're amazing. There's just those moments when, you know, the happy mistake happens. You see them work with that. And I absolutely live for improv for that. Like, and it's just a great lesson to take into life, which I think is maybe why improv well-being and stuff is so closely connected, and it is becoming so popular, is because you get something really, I don't know, like something for the soul out of it. And it's helped me in my life, like, as a person, just having that, like, that yes and, but also that, like, kind of just that sort of, how do I say it, like, going with the flow. I think that's a good example of what happened to us earlier with the fire alarm. And, like, all like not being able to get in here, and the three of us were just like kind of riffing off it.
I mean, we should explain what happened. We were stuck downstairs with a fire door going up and down. I mean, it was actually very comical. It was probably the best show of the day that we've seen so far. And there was a few characters. We had a lady who kept resetting the fire alarm. Yeah, it was great, actually. But I do think, finding the joy in those moments, maybe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you say in life it's helped as well. In terms of your work, and I know you write, and I know that you're an actor and a voiceover artist, and how do you find improv influences your work?
I found it really, really useful for acting. I think the more deep I got into improv, the more I found when I was doing an acting job, it was just so useful. Because it does, I mean, I honestly, I found I was less nervous for auditions because I just felt like, I don't mind, it doesn't matter what they throw at me, I can do it. It gives you like an absolute rock solid sense of confidence in your own ability to be free.
Yeah.
And also, I'm a very heady person. I'm very in my head with, when I'm doing a play, I will have written a novel on how to do this play and this character before the first day of rehearsals. So for me, it's so useful because I could just go, no, I'm going to make a choice about this character and I'm going to go with it. And then if it doesn't work, I'm going to get rid of it and I'm going to try something else. And I can do that in an audition room. And if a director goes, what about this? I can be like, cool, let's chuck it out. Let's try it again. And that's something that I couldn't do before. And then obviously, again, in a show, if it's a live theatre, things go wrong. It doesn't throw me at all. I feel so secure and like, there is always a comfortable way out of this now because of improv. I mean, it's
that is, I can see why that would be. For me, writing wise, improv is improv is a really nice time to just be with people because writing can be quite solitary. So it's like like at the moment I'm writing a memoir about a silent pilgrimage I did, and it's not going well. The book is finished, but then I reread it yesterday and I was like, this is really bad. So I need to go back and like isolate for a while. But improv I'm doing an FA course at the moment every Sunday. I'm doing the Herald, and I'm going there and I'm with people. But also it's actually like really great to do a structured improv, because it shows me like, I'll be walking through my walking home from the improv class, and then something will come up and I'll be like, oh, I'm the kind of guy who does that. And then I'll just riff in my head about that, and then I'll like write that down. And it's not necessarily going to go anywhere, but it's just like a little bit of writing, putting it on the page, and maybe at some point I'll come back to it and I can put it somewhere. But for me, I have so many notebooks. I could build a house. And I don't know if the big bad wolf would be able to blow it down, because my words are so good. Solid foundation, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that I remember I do stand up, but I don't do it anymore. But can't do everything, guys. Dabble in it, put my foot in the pond. And I remember I had a notebook and I was just going through it, and then I saw this joke and I was like, oh, did I write that? That's pretty good. And I tried it out that night. I was doing French It Up, which is a bilingual comedy night with French and English comedians. And I did it there, and people were like, that was the best joke. And I was like, oh, and I found it in a notebook. I need to do that more. And also just to, I improvise sometimes short form as part of the French It Up. And me and Fab were having a chat before a show, and he said to me, like, from what I'm seeing, writing is a thing that links everything you do. So as a teacher, as a improviser, as a writer, as a comedian, like there is writing a writing element in all of that. And I thought that was really nice, because I was like, yeah, I guess so. Like when we did Luxembourg and there was an audience Q&A at the end of the show.
Oh my God, amazing.
It was so good. And they asked us, like, so you do improv, but what else? Like, what else do you all do? And it was like, well, we all actually do have that niche little thing.
We all do something different.
That, like, knits our whole life together. I'm doing a lot of hand gestures.
Yeah, it's not as good as this
one. And I
think
I whacked the microphone as well.
Do you think as a writer when you improvise? I know there's this sort of thing of like robots and pirates and ninjas. Yeah. And I mean, I sort of imagine robots being more on the writer side of things, right? Thinking structure and I'm just reading a book about this. This is terrible. Yeah, I'm reading that Will Hines book, and he's written it with someone else. Oh God! Now I'm gonna have to reference who it is. No, but anyway, and it's basically like there are the robots who think more structurally, and the pirates who are like, I'm gonna really commit to my character and make big choices. And it's very, I mean, I think they sort of admit that the premise is slightly flawed because everyone is a lot of things, you know. And then there's ninjas who can go across both of those things.
I would say, if I may, from working with you, no, not a robot.
I'm a full-on pirate.
Yeah. I'm really glad you know that.
When you said that, I was like, I mean,
I'm sitting there like, one of us has to bring this up.
Yeah.
I've worked with you for a long time. There's no way.
You'll come out with the big move.
I quite like that. I quite like those, because I do think you're right. I think we all lean into different things, but I think there's definitely like an instinctive pocket that everyone sort of naturally sits in.
Yeah.
And what I do think we've done really well with CSI is we are an absolute combo of all of those. And so each show you are going to have robots, ninjas, and pirates. You just are. And
probably mermaids. Like,
I know that's not in the book.
They're in there.
Absolutely.
You definitely are. So I think that is actually vital for a show, particularly a long form, actually. I think I'm a robot. And it sounds like the most unglamorous one. Because you just always think it's just the person being like, bleep, bleep,
I don't think you were a robot in the rehearsal the other day when you were climbing on James's motorbike.
Oh, I did climb on James. Yeah, that's true.
that was not robot behavior. I was like,
so we all have
the pirates coming out.
Yeah, but you do need the combo.
You need them. You need them both, and that's where the ninjas come in. I mean, it's just you've got the ninja is such a cool name, and then you feel like if you're the robot, you're like, what? I don't.
I know, that's what I mean. I'm like, I don't want to be the robot, but I sort of know I am.
Nah, I think like the robot has the like I'm thinking of it as in the sort of like straight man, like quirky point of view. And I think that the straight man has so much fun in being that, in like showing someone like, what's going on there?
Yeah, I always feel like when you say straight man now, it's like when you say straight play, I'm always like, so just to clarify what I mean by straight man.
Actually, I think that's not the correct word anymore. I think it's voice of reason.
Voice of reason.
It's not straight man anymore.
Voice of reason,
Yeah. No, but I mean, I would still refer to it as that. And then you'd be like, oh, but what I mean by that is a million other things. So I guess I'm going to ask, what is your best, if you do have a story of your best improv audience, and maybe your worst improv audience.
I got called a whore once.
Yeah, we do. Sometimes they get really.
My name was Victoria Sponge, and I was a Southern Belle. And it was at Edinburgh.
That's unexpected.
Nicola got called a witch. Someone shouted out, "Burn the witch" at the end.
Wow.
Mainly things shouted at women, which is something
women,
that,
actually.
like, just to get a bit real, I do find that a little bit uncomfortable still, like with the fact that like. For some people, men are funnier than women, and you can see that sometimes in like not all of our audiences at all, but occasionally, like when a comment like that, I don't know, sometimes it makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, but I can't remember like a specific audience where I'd be like, that was amazing, but we have many that are like that.
I can.
Can you?
Brighton, were you in that show when it was the sexual health nurse?
Yes.
I thought that was amazing.
That was great.
That was like electric.
That was the James Blunt one, wasn't it?
Yeah. The James Blunt one. It was, they were like they just were up for it. It was a Saturday night audience. And like they wanted us to do a show about sexual health, and we did that show. We were really respectful.
Yeah.
I just thought it was great.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very true.
And it's a hard venue. It's huge venue.
I think for me, it's those individual audience members that particularly in like, who really make themselves characters in the show. And it's so joyful when that happens because they really become part of it. And then everyone else in the audience can see as well, like, oh, this is such a safe environment because they've become part of it. And people will be like, we've had audience members before going, now I've got a theory here. And like, oh, okay, here we go. Here we go. Everyone, this is great. Or somebody in one show we did in Brighton recently, and they were really like, now you mentioned earlier that this happened at this point, but later on you said this. You're like, that is very true. I did do that.
They're really keeping track.
Really keeping track, and that is always absolutely. It's just the most joyful thing to me.
It's the biggest gift.
Yeah. Because didn't Danielle have a show where suddenly towards the end they were like, but haven't you got a wooden leg? And she was like, yes,
I do.
And that ended up being vital to the murder weapon at the end.
That was amazing.
And that was an audience member gave that, and it became like the most important bit of the show, and it was so funny to have that.
Yeah.
And it's those weird little gifts that they can give us that we're like, thank you, that's so fun.
Just to get a little practical.
Yes.
So the thing about groups I've found, because I've joined not improv groups, but other types of groups where you're trying to put on shows and things, there is trying to find people who are wanting to organize these groups is also a difficult part. So how do you guys divide up that labor of the organization, the gig finding, things like that?
We found quite early on, people naturally gravitated into certain roles, which is remarkable. And I do think that like that is probably why we've been able to keep going so long and why it's just worked. And nobody's ever been assigned a role or a title, except for Steve, who we did make treasurer. Yeah. Although we did say, anyone want to be treasurer? And all sort of stared at him. And he was like, yes.
Yeah.
But he's so good at keeping tabs on everything that happens in the show. He has a spreadsheet of every show we've ever done.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And every role people played in it. And so all that information is
how many
there.
people were in the audience? Where was the venue? What were the name of the victims?
Wow.
Like every single thing he has. And he's done that by choice. No one's asked him to do that.
he enjoys it.
Yeah. So I think people sort of naturally fell into pockets. And I do think that was...
James is killer at social media. He's so good at social media.
No, the rest of us know what we're doing, really, do we? And he knew what he was doing.
He knows, and also like everyone's background's like something that they've brought in, like what James has brought from his career. Yeah. Like it's really helped like our social media presence.
What is James's career?
I always he hates this because when we first met, he was doing social media. So he was running the social media account for BBC News.
Oh, wow.
So he then fell into the pocket of doing our social media.
Yeah.
He now does not do anything to do with social media. But so what's brilliant
is he not doing social media anymore?
Kayleigh, not for years. No, but I
thought he did the Olympics social media.
No.
Is that a joke?
It's not social media. But in my head, that's it. As far as I'm concerned, he does social media now. But so that was useful. And then we had and Lee was particularly good at doing kind of, I can't even think what the word is, like images, photos and Photoshop and stuff.
Design.
Yeah.
So design.
Graphic design.
Yeah.
So he did all the posters and stuff like that, amongst other things. But, that was something that none of the rest of us could do. And so everyone fell in to pocket.
You're so organised. Like, you and Nicola,
we just happened to be very,
very organised.
Too organised.
Yeah, really organised.
I remember very, very early on, before you and Alex joined, but realising that I didn't really know what to do. This is when we'd done 2 or 3 shows. I mean, this is super early. And saying to one of the guys who was organising quite a lot of the gigs, because he'd been more current on the comedy circuit, and I sort of said to him, what do you do? I don't know how to do it. And he was like, look, there's a list, just work down it. And from then on, I was like, oh, I quite like this. So I kind of ended up producing most of the shows because I was like, I quite like doing this, actually.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
It kind of fell into a natural place for me. I was like, okay, that is because I'm super organised. It kind of felt logical. I'm like, contact a venue, allocate this, do that, fill in risk assessment, fine, And so it kind of, we naturally fell into roles, which, look, not every group has that, and I do think that is sadly when groups can just sort of peter out, because you need someone that's going to go, I'm going to do this, and we were just lucky in that we had quite a lot of people that did that. So the work was quite evenly spread.
But I don't do any of that now. It's not a strength of mine, is being organised. It's also being a teacher. There's always
no time.
The work's never done as a teacher, so it's like every little second I have to think, the teacher stuff. But so it's not something I am in, because we have a committee now, so it's a group of people who are taking on that sort of practical side of CSI, and a couple of us have decided not to be in that because of our own commitments and what we can give. But for example, I just have loads of friends, so I just have spreadsheets. Yeah, I just dabble in with what I can offer CSI in terms of other things, but like this podcast or
but creatively, everyone's equal. And that's the thing. It's some of us do the more of the organizational stuff, but that what's nice is that in the group there's no kind of weird begrudging nature of that, because we kind of want to do it. And if Kayleigh said to me today, actually, I'd quite like to take over all the shows you produce, I'd be really disappointed. But so
because I'd be rubbish at it. She'd be like, hello.
But everybody creatively all brings stuff. So that's what's nice, is that it doesn't matter that some people are doing more of that admin, because everyone creatively is that
is true. That is
so important.
But so there's not a hierarchy in the group.
No,
we really are there's been no fights. There's been no punches. There's
not yet. I mean, we've still got time. We've got Edinburgh coming
I
up,
hope.
so let's
I
see,
hope.
Yeah, so tell us, where can we come and see you?
You could see us at Edinburgh Fringe from the 4th to the 27th of August at the
organised
Underbelly Ermintrude at 3:10.
Amazing.
Yeah,
wow.
we're doing Underbelly. We do that venue every year. It's amazing. Love working for Underbelly.
Yeah.
# free lemonade. Thank you very much.
And we won't be queued around the block and not getting in.
It's not going to tickets. You have a lovely. I'll tell you what's great about our queue. It's under an enclosed tunnel.
No rain.
So you don't even get rained on. When you've bought your ticket, you can just join that queue.
That matters in Edinburgh.
It does. We've got an air-conditioned room. It's a lecture theatre. You get comfortable seats. You have a little table in front of you to pop your drink on.
I might get a ticket to Edinburgh just for the tunnel, actually.
Just for the experience. Look, you just close your eyes whilst we're doing the show. Just enjoy the experience, sitting in a nice room.
Aircon.
You're not in a cave, guys. It's nice.
Correct. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed chatting to you.
It's been really fun.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the Make It Work podcast. Please like and subscribe to our channel. You can also follow us on Instagram at Make It Work Podcast UK, or feel free to email us at makeitworkpodcastuk@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We're a new podcast, so your support really helps us. We'll see you again soon. Join us, learn with us, and let's make it work.